Except for that.
Equal board. Study session, now commencing. Let's see, the minutes, Jasmine did write the minutes. We have awards and resolutions. There's some acknowledgements. And now the auditors. Here from the auditor's office. No?
That's the point. We had the same thing.
Do you have any comments on this or?
I have a comment that I have found out why about lower level individual, but fine with this, but one thing I want to stress, if I chair the committee, not a big shot, but I'd like for somebody to call me or explain something to me. Nobody's talked to me and now they don't show up here.
Yeah, regarding that, I did speak to Victoria, and I believe when she sends out the deadline for the agenda, she is placing in there that you need to contact your chairman of your committee to even be placed on the agenda. So we're trying to work that out, because it's not unfair if you're asking a council person to make a motion on your behalf and they know nothing from it.
I agree with you. So,
Yes.
maybe it'll get a minute. I'll make a decision on this Tuesday.
I have asked for some inquiry on this also. I mean, it's a large supplemental pay. And so I needed additional information myself. And it's under my understanding that this fund is okay for this year perhaps. Is this a true use for this? Does it have anything to do, does the position have anything to do with the ineligibility deduction fund? So Tom is going to make an inquiry with State Board of Accounts for use. And then we'll get.
And I'll say that what I know I see happen, but nobody contacted me.
Okay, very good.
Here's the thing. Somebody's gonna accept and be given big responsibilities for an eligible homestead, okay? They're not gonna use an attorney for that, which they've done in the past. Therefore, what I kind of like to see is reduce your contractual, which would be paid for an attorney, right? Reduce that and plug it in here, so it's a wash instead of that fund, that's all. But I'll make a decision on this on Tuesday because nobody's reached out. I don't know what I'll do, but I'd like to see a transfer from contractual to this salary.
It was Linda Midcap. She's online. Is that for the auditor's office?
Yes.
Linda, are you online? Do you want to add anything? Moving on. Oh, she's on mute. Here she's muted. Story to unmute her. Okay, well, we'll move on. She can get on, then we both.
That'll be there Tuesday.
Okay, Over Township, morning.
Morning, council. I sent a letter to Christine, which I think you all might have a copy of. I've been talking with Ted about this ordinance 1502C, which is the part-time pay ordinance for the county. My copy is kind of yellow, and I think that's probably how long this ordinance has been in play. What I want to do is just for number 5 and number 6, I just want to raise the maximums up to $20 an hour. I'm not asking for an appropriation. I'm not asking for any more money in my part-time fund. I'm just asking for a little, leeway and how to spend. I have one level, one part-time in my office right now is one class away from her level 3. And she's excelled beyond my comprehension. And And I think she deserves more than $12 an hour. Me and Ted are gonna get together before budget time and maybe refine this a little more. But I just asked for, in all the items and numbers, say just for the maximum basis. Awesome.
Any questions, Councilman, Bldg?
No, Lino and I, like you said, we've been talking, I apologize for my tardiness, but I wiped out like 3 times getting to the truck. Man, the third one was the final straw. I couldn't even get back up. My knee was killing me, so. I don't know what it was like. We got bad out.
Yeah, so my husband was leaving with his tennis shoes on and I said, no.
I should have got those ice climber things or something, but
It looked wet.
I'd like to get with our county assessor with this though and set up a parameter, because I think, you know, a level 1 should pay so much, a level 2 and so forth. And then based on experience, give the personnel, I should say the director, the opportunity to adjust the pay.
Yeah, these titles are in number 6 where it says data entry personnel, 12% 1 and 2. I mean, I would just like it to be 20 all the way down because, you know, I have different part-timers, or would have different part-timers in different positions.
That's the way the ordinance is prepared, 2020 as a cap.
Right. So, well, I hear it's 12.
No, our new one.
Oh, the new one, yeah. It's $20 now. So we have a range. Okay, any questions? Any other members? No, all right.
We're good.
Thank you. Superior Courtroom 4. Morning. You're looking for an appropriation? Oh, in a drug court fund, okay,
Yes.
all right, who's this, Councilman Ham,
Go ahead.
questions,
You can explain.
give your expertise.
Yes, we're looking to move those funds into the new grant, 25. The judge wants to use those additional funds, set up a computer room for participants where they have access to a computer, building, jobs, and any other research that they may need to help them along the way. That's what we want to use those additional funds.
Can you explain it again, you want to create a computer room?
Yes, separate room can be buy a computer, purchase a computer, just for the drug court participants need to use. We want to help.
Well, we couldn't use that room that's next to the cafeteria, that's,
Oh, I don't know, we're in Hammond.
oh, you're here. Okay, any questions?
No, I'm supportive.
Thank you.
Just give me a holler next time you go in the agenda. Probably won't take more than 30 seconds, but at least I'll have to understand. But I'm supportive.
Thank you. Superior Court Room 3.
Yeah,
Need permission to pay a $350 24 invoice from had encumbered, but
Yeah.
vendor just didn't know any problems.
and Judge Cantrell contacted me on this and all of it.
Hey, contact.
Yeah,
We tried.
thank you.
We tried.
All right,
Carolyn and Judge.
any questions from anyone?
That's really good.
All right, thank you. Juvenile Court, good morning.
So this was the last month change. We revised the fund and
So 9 and 10 are together, you're taking that your.
Right.
Both, yeah, because of where the positions.
The court ones, that, you know,
right.
again, Scott explained it to me. Tim, you know.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
I won't have any. You need me there,
I don't know.
I think Councilman Brown would like to see you here. He's has to be seen. Okay.
I feel that.
But, thank you. Anyone else questions? Joelle, you're up, elections and registration.
Good morning. Here's also Jessica Mesler. I don't know if any of you got hurt.
at the previous meeting. She is the new assistant director. So I'm having her here today. Continue to do well. So, asking to pay, the polling place rental out of the 2025 budget. At the end of the year, we were short. We were trying to do some transfers, missed it by just a little bit. And therefore, we're here today asking you to put it in our own budget. Any questions?
Councilman Fee,
We had talked to him earlier on when we were trying to do the transfer at the end of the year.
just the communication is
Yeah.
what I'm asking. I know I spent
For the next meeting too.
I talked to you, but I wanted to know if you talked to the chair.
Yes, they did.
That's- This should be up, and it is up.
FYI for you, we will
Yes,
have,
I've got it on my taskbar down there.
for the primary election. And then, Crown Point School Corporation and Hobart, Crown Point has not submitted theirs yet, expecting it before the 21st, and Hobart Community School City of Hobart has already requested that we will have two special referendums on May 6th. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
It's being worked out.
All right, planning commission, Marty.
I mean, should I leave it on unmute then? Is that what you guys put it on? I don't, that doesn't.
Oh, Linda, okay. Linda?
See if she can walk upstairs or.
Yeah, is she in the building? Okay, go ahead.
It's just a pretty simple zone change, ordinance 2583, from agricultural to residential to reflect the use. There's a home on the property. And the individual, Mr. Lazanowski, says that he wants to refinance, and I don't know if he finance, but he wants to refinance, and the bank wants him to be zoned residentially. It comes to you with a unanimous vote. Recommendation for approval by the planning commission by those.
Okay, any questions?
In the notes, it talked about a concern about resetting.
They would have to come back, that's when there's a huge pond on the property, so it may be difficult for them.
He's here.
Hey, we're requesting additional appropriations for the fiscal year 23 and 24 JAG grants. You create a new line item.
Great, anyone have any questions? And I know the last JAG grant was signed by the commissioners. All right. Thank you. Is that all you have? Oh, no. Oh, yeah, the two JAGs. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners, 911. Morning.
So first off, before I get yelled at, I accept full responsibility for not always being in contact. I try to get better at that. I think one of the things that I'm going to ask, and I don't know any other, the other departments, is what mode of contact you'd appreciate. I think some people would rather have an email, some people it's a phone call, other people maybe even a text message, or even the contact information. I think sometimes that's become problematic, just in emails either not working or working, or personal email or something like that. So I'll do my research and make sure that that happens. But in front of me today to transfer $600,000 into our other services. A couple months ago, I was here explaining some of our issues with staffing. After that time frame, we're continuing to onboard. We started 8 people on Monday, but the rate of what we need to do, what we require and get in here, it's just not exactly the same. So about October, November of last year, I started doing some research with some temporary companies. You can't just, there are temporary organizations out there that provide temporary staffing, but for us, with how specialized this is, we needed somebody who could provide us temporary dispatchers. So there were 2 companies that we vetted out. One of them did not get some very good feedback on. The other one we did. We started having conversations and we entered into a contract that would provide us 12 individuals for 6 months. 5 of them onboarded with us on Monday. We have a meeting tomorrow to kind of strategize how we're going to onboard the rest of them. Again, for a total of 6 months each individual. They've signed a contract with this company. They are a private contractor. We're not paying them any benefits or anything of that nature. And that is ultimately why I'm reducing our insurance and effective services, because that's from our full-time employees and from the insurance for the full-time employees. I contracted, I divided how many individuals we won't have, to how much of it of insurance per the quarter we'll have, and that's how I ultimately do it. Not asking for any additional
Are
appropriation.
they already trained?
So they came in on Monday. They had to have the certification that we require within our organization. We spent 3 days with them to show them how each one of our softwares works, to make sure that they know how to. Today, they started on-the-job training with our certified training officers for hopefully just 2 to 3 days, and they'll be working for us full-time starting next week. For 40 hours each. So it's only 1 week of training as opposed to 3 months of training.
Yes, that's what.
It's just a quick question for you. In my opinion, bringing in these temporary help, what did the union say about that? Because it's supplanting full-time workers.
Yes, sir. So we had some very, very candid conversations about that, and it came down to work-life balance. The individuals in there are not having a great work-life balance.
Absolutely not.
And ultimately, the decision was made. This isn't taking away all of the overtime. This is ensuring that those people that don't want to work as many hours as they're working do not have to. There's still overtime there for those individuals. We're not reducing our staff count. We want to continue to grow that staff count. It's just ultimately about how we can make sure that when somebody calls 911, we're providing the right level of service we need to, and the individuals in there feel that they actually have support.
Madam Chair, my only other concern would be depleting the health. Because our goal should be to staff that 100% with the right amount of people. So I don't know about you decrease it, you're just gonna have to put it back there eventually. Might as well just go ahead.
An employee cannot receive those funds for 3 months. If we're already 30 down, plus the people we just hired, we know that we won't be using those funds for an insurance purpose till at the minimum of June.
Correct.
So that's ultimately where that came into play. We won't be depleting those funds because they won't need to be.
There'll be a residual amount of savings at the end of the year, and then obviously I have no issues with if you save that money to spend it within your department. That's just, I always want to, I don't care about that. I just don't want to eliminate it if our goal is still to get it up to 100%.
Mark, how can this company find people? Why don't they just go directly to you instead of going for a temp service?
Quite frankly, they're from all over parts of the country, North Carolina, Texas, things of that nature. They're being housed here for 6 months. So it's not somebody from this particular area. And quite frankly, we're in a contract. This is one part of the plan, if you will, how we're going to hopefully get some staff. And I'll be in front of you in the next couple of months with some contract negotiations, hopefully some raising salaries. Because if Costco's going to start paying people $32 an hour, we really just need it. I understand our benefits package is much better than many of those public sector, private sectors. I get that, but explaining that to somebody under a certain age or not even thinking about a retirement package or something like that just becomes extremely difficult that we continue to go to. We're going to the Hobart Job Fair in the next couple of weeks here. We continue to go to the high schools. We're going to anywhere that we can to try to look. We just got on work one, and that became a bit of a struggle trying to get us approved as a prospective hiring practice.
Yeah.
No luck with the other recruiting, like IUN, Purdue, Cal with the criminal justice majors.
Personally went there, and I had over 40 people ask me about an internship because many of them had different, the way that their major was, they couldn't obtain a job unless it was within the field of theirs. They were maybe from another country or something of that nature, where it was very, very selective what they could do, and we didn't fit into some of those realms.
Well, I wish you most of luck, but if you find that system that works, please let us know because we need to be crossing for it in every department.
Retain these people, some.
So probably, you got it.
So have you done an analysis of what the cost per dispatcher is with this contract with this company?
Yes.
How does it compare to our current cost structure per dispatcher?
So if you take in the benefits package, it's almost an even scenario. I think if you look around what we equate this to is those traveling
Almost
nurses.
even mean? Sorry, what does almost even mean?
I believe there's maybe an offshoot, maybe 5%.
So this more expensive, less expensive?
More expensive.
And you say they're from around the country. This is, I've never heard of these temporary dispatch services that go travel around the country.
Fairly new, and that's why we had to vet them. Spoke to several different 911 centers that have used these different companies before. And again, it's much like a traveling nurse. You see those around the country with hospitals and their staffing crises. A few companies figured that this might be a good way to supplant some of those issues. And you see it in the, right now, what we're being compared to is the FAA. You've seen some of the tragedies that have been happening over the last couple of weeks. All you're hearing about is the shortages in those types of dispatchers, and it's coming to light that the same thing's happening with our field as well.
And since these people aren't governed by the contract, how are they supervised and governed within your department?
Per the contract, they follow all of our policies and procedures. We also have an out clause if something's not working or if they do anything in any way that we would perceive to be willful and wanton.
Where would any disputes be settled, here in Indiana or in the state of the contractor?
At least per the contract in the state of it.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Why couldn't we just not take this out of protective services? I don't know. Overtime is not spend.
So it's not out of, it's protective services, which is the full-time employees that I currently don't have.
Yes, I understand that. And usually we transfer that for overtime.
Yes.
So this should have some savings in overtime. And it's early in the year. Why not just take the full amount from protective services?
Well, for protective services, the idea is to hopefully still hire, to your point, sir, to hire these individuals. The insurance won't happen for another 3 months after they're hired, but as soon as they start, I have to start paying.
Well, how many vacancies do you have now?
33.
33. So this is filling 12.
Times 25,000,
Well, 42,000
Yeah.
plus their benefit,
there's 25,000 just in benefit.
Oh, I thought we weren't giving them. Oh, you mean
the employees were not.
vacancies, right?
Is there a
Right, and we're not
non-compete with
giving
this contract?
benefits.
They cannot work for that company for a year.
Got it.
So we can't lose anybody for. Thought about that one as well.
Yeah, I would prefer to come from all of protective services. That
That's your-
time early in the game.
That's your self-insurance account.
Yeah, but it's still county insurance.
I get it.
Because at the end of the year, December, we look at, so this line item would have surplus, we'll transfer that, even though the employees didn't use it, the payroll didn't, we still push that into the insurance reserve. So this transfer will negate that change.
Even though that fund is funded by a lawyer, it's funded via the tax level, sorry.
County income tax.
Your D 911.
No, it's not the 911. No, it's not the.
County income
This
tax.
this is not. county
This is in general fund.
This is levy money.
So
They get three.
I guess it's robbing Peter to pay Paul, because if I need the insurance next, towards the end of the year, I'm still gonna be pulling it from insurance like I did last year.
Yeah, you'll unlikely.
That was the idea of asking for it this
I mean,
early.
even if you have, say, 30 vacancies.
33.
45,000. Just,
Even if I hire them at the middle of the year, we're still.
you're already 400,000 favorable. Just in that line. So. Right there.
That's how I came up with 1,000, to try to balance this as easy as I could, not have to keep coming back.
You'll be back for the usual transfer window. And you're trying to avoid, you're looking for a line to take it out of. So if you typically take it out of protective services.
You calculated what the overtime reduction might be with these additional dispatches?
I have, the factor that becomes problematic with that is that we pay our employees just a different range. Each employee, there's levels there where it would be dependent on which person's working it, where there's a couple of dollars here or there that would definitely change that dynamic.
How many total dispatchers was it again?
12 for 6 months. If it extends past that, we have an agreement with the union to have discussions.
Councilman Hugler,
Yeah,
question. You don't have an average of what you'd save in overtime by utilizing this one?
Quite frankly, right now, this is a necessity of ensuring that the room staffs properly, more than
So
anything.
the answer is yes or no. If you figured out how much you will approximately save in overtime. Is that your question?
I
Yeah,
don't
like-
have that exact number,
So,
but
so Scott was just talking about like at the end of the year, we have this transfer always. The transfer should be less.
Right.
I mean, theoretically.
Yes, so that's right.
it will be less than it was the previous years. Well, It should be. The problem also is each year that you look, the salaries keep going up. So that also compounds the overtime to the cost, the overall cost of it.
But your overtime budget this year is higher than last year. So you should, by default, you should just, from that dynamic alone, you transfer.
My transfer will be less. The overall amount may be relatively equal based on the salary increase.
But salary increases are contemplated within the budget, calculated. So,
CBA, yes.
So I'm gonna ask a question. So for the new people that you bring it on, do they qualify to do any overtime?
We are not qualifying them to work overtime. More.
You are able to cover what you need.
No, the cost to pay them overtime would then put us into the negative further as far as what we're paying now per employee.
I know when I've used a temp agency to hire truck drivers, it was always a lot more costly to bring them on myself. And so that's why I asked some of these questions.
Understood, but there will be additional cost to it. At this point in time, it's about weighing those costs between the needs of the agency.
So it's not like this is just a temporary fix, a Band-Aid, pretty much. It doesn't solve the problem that you have.
Correct.
So how do you get yourself out of this situation that you're in?
So there's.
We're doing this for 6 months.
Yes, sir.
So that's not.
So we did a survey last year towards October, November of last year, asked our employees what were some of why are they here, why are they not here kind of thing. It was anonymous, people could reply to it if they wanted to. The two things that we heard the most were the amount of hours an individuals working was becoming very daunting, and the culture in the room. Changed a couple of those culture situations in our room via dynamics of who's in what positions within our organization, and then the other thing was this work-life balance scenario. The idea here is, and I've even spoken to some of my employees, because they asked, well, what are we going to do in 6 months? We're continuing to onboard. What we've seen is when we release an employee, they're working a tremendous amount of overtime, just like everybody else, but maybe they weren't accustomed to ever working that type of overtime. They start quitting, they start, leaving based on the fact that they're working all that overtime. So if we can get them the ability to take to our culture, to take to this job, to see whether or not they can make this a career prior to making such a snap judge decision on leaving because of the hours, we're hoping that can help. Continuing down different paths as far as our staffing and how we can get more of it attractive, whether that be new salaries, whether that be retention bonuses, stuff like that. And that's going to be based on what we can think about or have discussions and come to agreements about with collective bargaining. We open collective bargaining. The contract ends at the end of this year. We hope to start and hopefully complete those negotiations prior to any sort of budgetary scenarios. Whenever there's been a situation with monetary changes, have a conversation with the council to see whether or not that would be something that is an agreeable situation for the county. So the idea here is this 6 months is going to get us through this 6 months. As people start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel of maybe some wage increases, some other benefits that we can add to that, the hope is that they continue to stay and we continue to bring on more individuals and have them stay.
So with the high turnover rate that you have, do you all do exit interviews? Because I would be more than want to see why the people are leaving for their reason. I appreciate hearing from the current employee, but it seems like we have more people that's leaving than staying. So I would be more concerned to see why people are leaving mass exodus out of the department more so than everyone that's still left. It seems like we have more that have left than that's there now.
We contact these employees, these individuals, many of them do not feel.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Many of them do not feel like speaking to the organization for whatever factor.
So what is your
Got a
retention?
case of the red acid. That's what they quit.
Yeah.
Retention rate prior to COVID, the national average. The national average in this field is 17%. We were at 13%. Since COVID, the Great Resignation, and everybody having a different aspect on what work life looks like, it has been drastically different. We're probably closer to 33 to 40%.
Well, I guess I think we asked you, you're doing exactly what we asked you to do. We have a hole in the levy. We got our finger in it, but we're a labor shortage across the board with everybody. Law enforcement sees it, every department sees it. And I agree, it's costly. Temporary services are gonna cost you more. They're flush peddlers. They treat their employees terrible. I don't like the concept. I seen our nursing staff, I seen it in our jail. I seen how mismanaged and terrible that was and how those employees were treated. It was shameful. But we don't really have a choice, guys. I mean, it's out there across the board. There's just not people seeking out this type of work. So I support your endeavors. I wasn't trying to bust your chops on this. I just needed to get some answers. However we gotta pay it. And if you come up with a formula, I'd love for you to share with us that we can seek out for other positions to fill jobs, because labor's a shortfall, a true shortfall of labor. People just don't want to work.
This is a new endeavor. I expected some
Yeah,
discussion.
if not all of us, you're not alone.
Upset or angry. I think the method that I've come through currently is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. You start trying some different scenarios or different situations and they're not. We need to at least attempt some of these to hopefully combat some of the issues we're facing. Is it going to work? I sure hope so, but there's no guarantee in life, right? But we're going to continue down some paths. We have a new deputy director we just announced last week. We're going to hopefully help with that scenario and some additional changes out on the floor to help with our culture.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with, you looking outside the box to bring folks in to help relieve some of that overtime for those that prefer to have a life work balance. I just had issues, I just felt that it should just come out of all the services that this time. That's all this early in the budget, so. That was my only concern. So anybody else?
No, I agree with you 100%. If necessary, later on, and we're short, a transfer would suffice. I agree with the president.
I agree with it, because I mean, your overtime budget was increased by $400,000 this year. And in the past, you typically would transfer, going from 600 to 800,000. So that's covered. So there's really minimal risk of this 300,000 coming out of protective services and stuff.
You mean it goes 600?
Yeah.
600. What do you say, Chris?
Yeah.
I personally don't have a dog in the fight as far as where.
How do you get the money?
Well, it's more, I just wanted to explain my thought process was I don't have those people there to get the insurance right now. So that's ultimately why I went to that route.
No, I understand.
I understand the perspective of the county too, just explaining my thought process.
Well, I think what most don't realize, I think it needs to be said, is the group insurance line, even though there is surplus in that, that's not really available to spread in other line items. That ends up in the insurance reserve in your regardless of how it gets in, whether it's through field positions and then there's a monthly accrual that moves in there, payroll process, or there's vacancies in that monthly transaction doesn't occur. At the end of the year, we sweep it up. Because that's budgeted, accounted for. It's there, so we don't want to reduce what's available.
Anything else? All right. Thank you. Linda, Linda's here now from the auditor.
Okay.
Hi.
Right, can you give me an explanation on what the 18,000 would be used for? You
Okay,
know what I'm
yes.
referring to, or should I show you?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what I'm talking about. It's called ineligible homesteads, and that is, some of it is, I don't want to use the word fraud, but it is fraud. Some people might have multiple homesteads, they do it on purpose. Some people don't do it on purpose. Some people, their parents might die, or the last one standing, and the family just forgets to take off the homestead, maybe the kids rent it out. It seems like we have a real problem with that, and I just took over this position in October, and I'm getting into like a lot of it, So with that being said, and we're doing a lot of, when we can, and it's hard because I'm trying to back bill everybody and go back up to 3 years. But it's hard because you can't back bill anybody that's deceased, because people who rent their homes out, like the parents' home, they're not the owner, so you can't send somebody that's not an owner a bill. So with that, we're trying to clean up the county. We're trying to send them all notices that we know that we're removing the homesteads and stuff like that. Now, however, there is some people that actually, they might move and just forget to take off the homestead. So we're catching them, we're back billing them. And some people just have multiple homesteads that they keep adding on, and we're really trying to get a grip on that. So this Leslie Jones in our office, she used to do it before, she was really, really good at it, but of course she's moved into bookkeeping now. And I put it, Peggy, I should say, put it for $18,000 raise, but it's not like she's gonna get 18,000. 6,000 of her money right now comes in a supplement fund. It's like a 293 fund, which we gotta put that right back into the life fund. And then we were gonna go ahead and give her, it's basically a $12,000 raise a year, but doing it.
Okay, so.
What was doing that before?
So it's constant hamburgers.
Who was doing that before?
You know what, there was,
At this point?
I thought she just said Leslie.
Contracted.
Leslie was doing it before, and then we had to move her into, bookkeeping. And then this other girl was,
Position, who's in the position that Leslie?
okay, she was, and then this Michelle that came over, she was doing it. And it was like done, I don't want to be like sloppy, but it wasn't done from what I understand as aggressive. So, and I think that year we lost some money because of, maybe she didn't know what she was doing, maybe she wasn't doing it right or whatever. And so this year, what we'd like to do is put it back to Leslie and have her send all the, letters, have her do all the back billing, have her go to all the, PETA board meetings, if somebody fights her on it and stuff like that, and that's what she is.
It's contracted in the past.
No, it's just, it's with the auditor's office, it's just a position in the
So
auditor.
it was never contracted
No.
through an attorney. Which
It's
is
all right, it's all right, didn't
I think SRI handles a lot with taxing, and that's it. But this is like homesteads that people shouldn't have.
Yeah, well, I
Legislation changes,
Yeah.
and we were assured that there was software, now that office has changed hands, but we were assured years ago, and I think maybe Christine and myself were on here, and Ray, you might remember, Tom, you might even as well. I want to say John Patelis might have been, but we were assured that this was being cleaned up, that there was a lot of exact same situations, people that were, what do you call those flippers or whatever they call it, they get
Right, exactly.
where they had 10 different
But
homesteads.
I think the problem with that is,
We were assured up here, just so you're aware, that what we paid for, and we made increases to go after that. And this is several years ago, and we've never heard a word one, at least over the last 10 years, about this being a problem again. And then now today, you're coming to us, telling us that this has been a problem for a long time. I'm
Well,
gonna look into it.
okay, well, I think what you're saying is too, and this is just what I'm guessing. The program was called Gateway. And when you put something into Gateway now, it's in there, but it takes years, it takes everybody filing their home deduction, so they're in there.
Yes.
I think you're missing the question. The question is, was there a contract service? And I remember what Ed's talking about. I remember the lawyer's name. And I think they took it on a contingency. And they would take a portion of what they collected with the indication. We cleaned all this up. Am I remembering that right?
You know what?
Was my impression.
You know what?
That was my impression.
And I think I want to say, if it's the same company, but that was years ago. And I want to say that was, I think Leslie, that's how she got involved in this. I think she worked for that company at one time. That was a long time ago, but.
Right, I thought, we
Yeah.
we had it cleaned up. No one ever bothered to tell us that, no, this is still a major screw
I
up.
wouldn't say it's a major problem, but you get new people that move in these places all the time and they just don't do what they should be doing. Maybe move bags.
Hustle like, that, hey, why not? I got a second home, I live homestead.
I have more.
But I always say to our staff, to the deductions up there, we gotta do our due diligence too and check in. And when somebody files, check and look at their social security number, check in MVP, check in this and that. I'm really like getting a little bit more tougher on them than I think they ever had.
I still need clarification.
Okay.
So, and you didn't like names, but you got a Leslie, you have a Leslie there. This is not personal with any employer. You have a Leslie there. She was doing this job of finding these ineligible deductions. She's moved over booking. Why?
Well, and I think the part that we're going to, when Leslie was hired in, she was hired in by this private company to clean up the homesteads, that attorney and all that other stuff.
Oh, okay.
And then when that company left, I think it was Mr. Patelis that hired her into the auditor's office. And they put her up front in deductions. And then that company kind of disappeared, but she was doing it on her own and
Under what type, under what title?
just underneath homesteads, just when you come in to buy, I don't think she had a title.
She didn't have a title? She didn't have.
She was the supervisor of homestead and that's what part she did. She did what we call corrective living.
So she was in a position, she was getting paid out of a position.
As a
And to do this job. But then you take her out of that position, someone took her out of that position and you move her to bookkeeping. So then now you want her to do the bookkeeping work and this job?
And she said that she could do it.
Well, the way you make it sound like there's a lot of time and effort into that homestead deduction ineligibility job. So why make her do both and just leave her where she was and build the bookkeeping and stuff?
Because they really needed her in bookkeeping because she's very good with Oracle and she's taking her there. I mean, I didn't make that decision. I just started this.
So where's the money? Where's the money for the position of that she was doing in homestead?
That's it with her supervisor position, that is still maintained up fraudulent deductions. I mean, that money did not go anyplace.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Then you should delete that position, use that money to give her an increase in a new title. That's what I believe you should do.
And I
I
think
don't
when
think
she went
you
back
give
to
her a supplemental pay of 18.
I think when she went back to, I think she took her money that day and her, whatever she was making.
It's my understanding that the lady is exceptionally good. However, you're right, Chris.
Yeah, I can see where you guys are coming from.
I get it.
I had the same kind of thoughts and questions as president was. But what I see, so in my third year here, but what I see is kind of a repetitive motion in departments where there's an initiative undertaken 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Nobody really measures where it went. We don't know what the heck happened with it or what the results were.
Yeah, I mean,
And then all of a sudden, we're back to doing the same thing. We're creating positions around a person rather than a specific
and
objective.
the only reason why we wanted her to have it is because she worked for that company and she knew what she was doing with it. And when she go to those meetings, she was excellent.
I think you're missing the president's.
But I understand what you're saying.
You do understand.
I do understand.
So,
Where's the money coming from?
so there's a vacant, her other position is vacant.
There is no supervisor up there. She took her position, and I should say she took her money, and I think it went back with her with bookkeeping. I believe I was not there at this meeting to do this. I mean, this is all done.
Okay, I think I need a little more research.
Okay.
And here's the other thing. And this is a fee fund. I mean, it's not a fee fund. It's a fund of money coming in. But if there's less and less money coming in, and what happens to her supplemental pay? Is it gonna then be expected for the general fund to take over the supplemental pay?
No, I truly understand that. In fact, I told Peggy a while back, I said, Peggy, if everybody's doing their job, I mean, I can see for the first year, you have a whole lot of money in this fund. And then if everybody's doing their job up front, it should be less money, less money, less money every year.
Is there any data of how much of a problem this actually is that, so we can really equate a value to the position?
I mean, we get papers in every day saying this one's dead, this one's that, this one moved. I mean, we have people coming in and file all the time. Sometimes we catch them there with their social security numbers in that program.
Do you have any data on past?
Well,
Right, if we had a contractor in the past, we should have some information available.
And that, I don't know. I mean, I even remember that.
How many homesteads and how many dollars? The data, not like,
we can look at the fund. We could go back and look at the fund and how much it was bringing in versus how much we're paying out.
Cindy, did you contact, you didn't contact, did you contact Ellen said?
No, I just contacted Peggy and I just, Peggy told me to put it on the agenda.
But you should, but in the future, whoever, I don't know when your department places stuff on or requests to be placed on our agenda, but you must reach out to your chair.
And Madam President, if I may, a few of us attended the legislative conference. And what the common theme is local government, county government will be cut somehow. So this idea of just throwing things at us, not having information and data and communications, we're all gonna have to look at the value of each position because this is going to get tight. I don't know how this property tax bill, Senate Bill 1 is gonna end up. It's obviously not gonna end up the way it's written now. But there's going to be some fundamental changes, period. So without information and communication, we have to kind of stop this idea and take it for granted that we're just gonna rubber stamp everything.
And that's perfect.
The third part of it, you can speak to the president or myself, speak to Councilman Brown.
No, I didn't talk to anybody except.
All right, we're the three on the committee. I happen to chair this committee. It's, making it a point now, because it's listed when secretary sends it out. Gotta contact somebody from your committee, not, this is how I found out. We want this.
Okay,
It's my plan to defer action. I won't say no action, but I'm gonna defer action. That will be my motion at the Tuesday meeting. Okay?
that's fine. I'll just talk to Peggy about it and see what she has to say about it.
That's fine.
Take another avenue or do something else.
I appreciate you answering questions, so thank you.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll.
And like I said, I don't have all the, I just started.
And the other thing
But I've been here like 20 years, so I'm just in my little world at my desk.
If this person is that good, why are we putting it in supplemental and not putting it in our salary?
Because that's what I was supposed to do. That's what I was told.
Yeah, and you mentioned something earlier too that I did not, it went over my head or I didn't. Just ask me to understand it is, you're asking for a supplemental of 18, but then you said you're gonna give me 12, so.
Well, that's because,
somewhere else, so.
yeah, we're putting 6 of her salary back into the 293 fund. Taking part of it away and making it one supplement.
All right, any questions from anyone?
Well, that's, just so my colleagues, know,
Yeah.
my intent is to make
No
a motion.
problem.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right. Chief, did you need? What's that? Oh, okay, so you need me afterwards, or you wanna talk about it now? Oh, okay, all right, Joe, you're up.
Be here, asking any money. What I presented, for you guys to consider is some changes to the handbook language. Some of these are relatively minor wording changes, but that I think are helpful. But a couple of the bigger ones are change to the attendance policy and the discipline appeal, some other like conduct sort of policy. So essentially, I think, the ones that I've suggested are improvements on what we have, currently, certainly updates. But one of the big changes would be the attendance policy is a lot more clear and gives a lot more guidance to the departments on how exactly do I go about disciplining somebody for attendance. So it's laid out, when you issue the first discipline, what you do the second time, that sort of thing.
Have such questions. So you're a department head, right? Salaried employee.
I am.
Exempt from overtime. So do you get, like, let's say you were to quit, are you eligible for like a lump sum vacation payout or comp time or anything like that? How would you accrue these benefits?
No comp based on our vacation. Yeah, based on the policy. So it's either an accrual rate or it's defined annual yearly benefits. So January 1st, we pay off, but if it's an accrual rate, then you retire in our leaving. The handbook, sorry.
So the question I have is, typically when there's salary exempt positions, you're paid whether you're here or not. Right, so you don't have to punch a clock. We have situations in a recent one that's in front of me right now is in the election division. Our assistant director just left to take another job. We have a new assistant director. That, as far as I know, is a salary position where you don't punch a clock. Maybe I'm wrong. But we're paying out a lump sum vacation payout, and wouldn't a person already be paid vacation if they're salaried exempt, whether they're here or not? There seems to be like a double dipping type of situation that's happening here.
So I'm not sure about, familiar with that
Like Nick
situation.
Dolphin just left the same situation, right? He was an administrator, salaried exempt. And, you talk about discipline for tardiness, whatever. If a person's not punching the clock, how are they tardy?
So I think what you're kind of describing, so I don't try to address any of that with these changes, by the way.
No,
What I feel like you're describing, I had one organization I worked for that said, hey, from director and above, we're going to go to a no PTO system. Meaning they just need to get their work done, show up whatever amount to get it done. But that's not what we have here. What they wanted to do there was eliminate those payouts.
That's not what we have here. So, you know, I'm here every day. I'm not somebody who's, you know, at home accumulating time or something. So I accumulate that vacation at whatever rate the handbook says. And anytime somebody leaves, they get paid out their vacation that's due to them.
That seems like a double dip to me. If you're on a salary and you're getting paid your salary, whether you're here or not.
Yeah.
Like you could work 20 hours a week, you're still getting the same salary. Now, you might end up getting fired by the commissioners because you're not putting the time in.
I agree if your scenario is you're working 20 hours a week. I think that's a double dip. But what I'm familiar with in organizations that, you know, I've almost always had a salary position. And every single one of those has come with a certain amount of vacation time.
So we set the salary ordinance, your salary is set. And then if you happen to quit, you basically get a bonus for quitting.
If you have vacation time that's unused, you get paid that vacation.
Before the vacation.
But why is there even vacation time?
Yeah, it's for the
Well,
previous
because I
year.
think it's a benefit, it's a benefit for as being an employee of the county. What I don't believe you have is comp time, because you're right, you're not punching the clock, and someday you may be late. You have a doctor's appointment, or you take a half day, or you just come in a little late, whatever. You don't get comp time in those positions.
I'll give an example of this. When I was in town government, we had a number of salaried exempt positions, say a police chief or a fire chief. When that person takes vacation, it's got paid their salary, right? There wasn't an extra benefit on top of it, because what we've created now is an extra benefit. And it's impacting budgets and impacts the ability to replace someone. Like if we had to replace you and you're paid out 5 weeks, 6 weeks of vacation time, now that budget, we have to wait that 6 weeks to replace you.
I don't dislike,
make sense.
I don't necessarily dislike the idea, but when that organization that I worked for was pitching that idea, my concerns were twofold. One is you could end up, the good part is you eliminate that liability of all that time that's out there that you potentially have to pay people when they leave. But you run the chance of, even if you did it just for, you know, a certain level of position and above, you run the chance of some people are not going to take the vacation that they should, or the time off that they should, and, you know, are ultimately maybe more stressed or whatever. And some people are going to abuse it and take way more time than they should. And you got to count on the person ahead of them or the elected official ahead of them to be monitoring their work closely enough and holding them to account for their work. So there's risks to doing what you're talking about. The upside is you eliminate the liability. The downside is it has to be managed properly by each individual that's in charge of somebody who has that much level of flexibility to work at home or way out the building.
What's the main concern here? The concern is that we're buying out defined benefit time that wasn't earned. Then we have to change the ordinance to say that you, let's say you get 6 weeks, take 6 weeks of vacation, divided by 12 months and or 365 days, and that's how much you earn each day. And then you would go back, let's say the person terminates 3 months into the year, then they got 3 months of defined benefit time because they do earn that. That is part of their salary.
Earn it the previous year.
And you're also earning it ongoing. So we're saying we held that time for grandfathered in, and you had to work for a year before you got it. And those people now get it on an annual basis, but there's something on an accrual basis.
What would be the penalty if you had a salaried person for not showing up to work and you're still getting paid?
They're on vacation.
No, but if they're not a scheduled vacation, like, so if you're on a salary, whether you work or not, you're getting paid the same.
Correct. It's supposed to be based off of 40 hours, but we're also supposed to be able to work 30 hours and get paid for 40 because the whole purpose of salary is to skirt overtime. You don't have to, but here in our line of work here, most of our folks are hourly, salary based on an hourly rate. Their salary based on hourly rate. I'd say 90% of the people here, with the exception of maybe our law enforcement could acquire, the county public works, highway department, and 911 could accrue and calculate it. And the rest, no.
Right, so to me, what I know about human resource law is obviously not as much as you, but as a business owner, I gotta kind of study this stuff too, is you can either have an accrued cash value benefit or it's a use it or lose it. It can't be both. So if we're putting a cash value to a lump sum payout at the end, wouldn't there always be a cash value to the benefit?
You're talking about a lump sum payout, but that's not a guaranteed payout amount, right? It depends on how much that person used. So a recent retiree, without using names, if they work into January, then they get, the time re-upped for, for vacation, which to your point, Councilman, was earned the previous year. And let's say they have a lot of time, they get 5 weeks. Well, that time is already owed to that person.
But if they were salaried, I'm trying to figure this out.
The short answer, in my opinion, is yes, salary people get vacation, unless you all decide to make an ordinance to the
But they
contrary.
get vacation anyways with the salary. Like, you're basically paid whether you're here or not with a salary. You're not paid by punching.
Confusing, but it's like this.
These things you're doing, I'm sorry, Chris,
Yeah.
there's one more time.
One more time.
I think what the concern is that I'm on salary, so I'm making $1,000 a week working, and I cash in my vacation, so the $1,000 I already got paid, but then I'm getting a second $1,000 because I took a week's vacation.
Right.
And I don't think it only when you buy out, but you prorate that vacation because you've earned it. So when you're leaving, you're talking about projecting forward, so.
It's not being prorated in budgets.
Well, no, but they're supposed to not fill that position until that's why I said it.
But that creates a deficiency in service by not filling the position.
So the problem,
Agreed.
I don't think it's a problem with it, how the benefits are being.
Try to figure this out.
The problem's not really how the benefit program works at the county, which is very common benefit program for vacation, whether you're salary or hourly. The challenge comes into play when you have a senior employee that retires mid-year, January, they have 5 weeks vacation. And then we pay them for the 5 weeks vacation in January, then we have to turn around and fill that position. It's goofy government budget, because that position is, budgeted for that year's salary, but we're actually paying 57 weeks of pay for that salary instead of the 52 that's budgeted. So that delays the opportunity to hire someone. We have that kind of happen in the sheriff's office too. They'll come in if they have like a slew of retirees in January, February, and they don't have that vacancy window, they may have to come in for an additional appropriation line item to pay that out because they were able to fortunately fill those spots. They still need the money. So
Use Joe as an example.
Yeah.
As an example, I hope he stays forever, but
And thanks for answering these
no,
questions.
but Joe decides to retire or quit or whatever. And then the other option is, don't take a lump sum buyout. Let's take 5 weeks of vacation and just continue to get paid. What's the difference? This way, if Joe were to leave and we needed to fill it, we have that opportunity.
So let me put another scenario in front of you. Let's say the salary is 80,000 and they have 5 weeks of vacation, and let's say the value of that is $7,500. So now that position just became an $87,500 position.
When they quit or retire, yes.
That doesn't make sense.
Sometimes, not annually.
The reason that people in leadership are on salary, they're paid a higher rate, is then that eliminates that benefit because you're paid anyways. Now, the responsibility of supervision falls back on the body that employs them. So if I have a salary employee working in my business and they're only showing up 10 hours, 20 hours a week, I'm firing them.
But they're showing up, yeah.
Right, but that if they take a vacation or whatever, they're just paid their salary.
But our police officers are salary.
But they're based on an hourly, it's different, it's in a contract. I'm talking about these appointed leadership positions that are salaried, and then they're essentially getting a bonus to their salary when they quit.
I think they're getting what they earned because they.
But it's not in the salary ordinance that way. The salary ordinance states their salary. And then we're essentially adding to that salary when they leave.
There's a benefit ordinance too. Talks about the benefits.
Right, but so where does that fall into the budget in the departments?
Well, again, unless you have someone leave.
I think
If someone leaves, you get the lump sum. follow-ups of pay.
I don't want to be late, I'm just trying to think.
So when my personal example, when I left NiSource in June of 19, I had a vacation balance that was usable for 5 weeks, 6 weeks vacation for 19. I knew I was leaving, so I didn't use any vacation time. So when I left in June, they gave me my 6 weeks of vacation that was earned in the prior year of 18. But then they also paid me my 3 weeks of vacation that I earned for the future year. So actually, exactly. So I left with 9 weeks vacation. I was a salary.
I actually had the same thing in my retirement, and it was valuated, and I earned a vacation, well on vacation, waiting for retirement, I earned a fucking vacation.
They paid me a lump sum of money. So my paycheck came in and said you worked 80 hours, and then I also received 360 hours of vacation.
But what I'm thinking here is, like, if there's a cash value to it, fine, it's paid out.
Yep.
But if it's a non-cash value, use it or lose it, which is supposedly what our system is, how do we consider it cash?
As I said, there's organizations out there doing something like what you're describing, at least for a certain level, so that they don't have these, big liabilities hanging out there, in particular for directors and VPs. But there's a downside to it. It still has to be managed by someone if somebody takes too little or too much. I'm also not making any suggestions in terms of changing vacation, although I think there's.
And I appreciate you answering the questions. I don't want to drag this out. It's just looking at this thing, it's like, how do we function as an organization when we've got to sit and wait to replace someone in leadership that might be a very essential person in that organization?
Yeah, and I think that the way forward with that, or my suggestion would be that we make it allowable for exceptions to the ordinance. I like the ordinance to be there so departments don't come to you all at the end of the year like, hey, we messed this up. However, when it's a top position or maybe a number 2 in an organization, it does make a lot more sense to figure out the budget stuff later.
Yeah, Chief Balbo left the sheriff's department and was going to retire. Now we have this gap for 5 or 6 weeks. That's not good for the sheriff's department. Right? I mean,
The higher it is, the worse it is.
Yeah.
To have those gaps for 2
The solution that we've employed here is departments, when they have that, they recognize they'll have a shortfall, so you can do the hiring, but come in for the additional appropriation for that line item to fund it.
So, right,
So that's
but
what
not
we-
everybody does that.
No, it's not consistent. There's there's offices that will.
How do we govern that system?
Set up a pardon. And they're not critical positions, they're not some of the same.
Yeah,
I think we're
so,
talking about department heads.
right, so it's.
That very rarely happens.
How do we govern that system? How do we budget for it? How do we govern it?
I like the officials should be responsible.
Well, we budget for the salary, so we have that covered, so
But we're not governing,
we don't budget
we're not
for.
budgeting for the extra salary that they're getting when they quit.
So we could, I mean, if you wanted to avoid the need for additional appropriations, a solution could be.
Salary ordinance is one thing, and the benefit ordinance is a separate entity.
I get it, but
You can change the whole system.
budget.
The first year you come on, you get a week's vacation. Not prior, and then you earn it next year, and then, because that's why people leave January 2nd.
But does the benefits,
Because then they get the full benefit.
that's a little bit of a double dip too. I mean,
So, well, it's because they earn that vacation, but it's the personal time in that, you shouldn't be you should be prorated. If you leave in March, you only get those 3 days for that year, or however it's.
My scenario was, I think there's a flaw, I mean, I think it's a good discussion, and I think there's a flaw actually in the way we have our system set up, in that it encourages people to wait until January to retire versus, but it's not a scam. Versus leaving mid-year. So my example, what I just gave at NiSource was, I think, very fair. I already had my 2019 6 weeks of vacation, and the fact that I left mid-year, they paid me out 9 weeks of vacation because it's prorated.
But a question for you,
Future.
was the defined benefit within your employment handbook a cash value benefit, or was it a use it or lose it?
It's use it or lose it, because you're allowed to,
You're allowed to, you're allowed, so their full system is you get 6 weeks. If I don't use all 6 weeks, then I'm allowed to fill a vacation bank up to 400 hours or 10 weeks. And once that 400 hours is capped, then you go to,
Okay, but-
use it or lose it place.
That's different, a vacation bank. Do we have a?
No, that's what we have here.
Use it or lose
We have a use it or lose it too. Right, we carry over to the end of the first quarter. So it's technically not
40 hours.
You could carry over 40 hours. That's
These are challenges of every organization. We have the same issue in the steel mill where everybody retires January 2nd or 3rd or whatever. It's the same issue. So a way to change that would be to more like how hospitals do, where you have PTO, you accumulate a certain amount for every 2 weeks that you work, right? But that would be dynamically and crazy, really different than what we have.
I'm not looking to change things here. I'm trying to figure this out.
But that would be a different way that, you know, you would only pay somebody out what they earn that year. You know, if you earned 1 hour or 1 day every 2 weeks that you work, then at the end of the year.
Does have budgets tighten in the future years? You gotta figure some of this stuff out.
Yeah, my house do vacation, personal, you know, they don't have a cash value. You leave. I understand,
How does that make sense?
Because we did have several departments just paying out like 360 days of this or the other. I might be exaggerating, but
You could just.
wait a minute, our policy says you can only carry over 5 and they have to be used by this date.
Just let it run. By the way, when I retired from the fire department at the end of years, didn't take a cash. I was the fire chief. They didn't fill it, right? I just said, no, just table my paycheck for the next 6 weeks. And they did. Mayor said, hell, we gotta fill this position. Go ahead. It wasn't double dipping. I was taking what I had coming. Wasn't asking for it up front.
What I also see is that payroll clerks, they do not understand, they don't know our ordinances. They don't know how to pay out. They don't know how to configure overtime properly. They don't know you have to work 40 hours. If you took a vacation day that week, that doesn't count towards the 40 hours. That's what we need. We need some training of these. As the auditor's office, from my knowledge, does not audit payroll. And that's how things get through. And if someone is paid more than they should be, I don't even know if we're asking for that money back. I don't think there's any auditing of payroll at all.
If you remember our meeting, Council, they said, we used to sit here when positions, anything was happening, every time we'd have to ask, okay, before you hire, have all the defined benefit time paid out.
Yeah.
We used to have to do that every time. I'm going back 20 years, but doggone it, it's 100%. It's not bad now. I think it's benefits earned, benefits paid. I don't know,
It's February, right? I get 6 weeks vacation this year. If I decide to retire, I just won't say anything, take my 6 weeks of vacation, come back and retire.
You got it.
Plus, the other thing that human resources want to know is when you have to post for jobs, advertise for jobs, by the time you find somebody to fill that position, it's your 3 or 4 weeks or a month down the line. I'm sure anybody else can retire yet. That's what I'm saying. And like Scott said, if we had somebody to fill it immediately, we've always come back to the council for an additional appropriation. And I understand what Randy.
20 years, I don't really can remember that happening only a couple of times. I can't remember him coming back even, so it's not fair. You can say, but I really don't think it's that.
I don't want to open a can of worms with it, but what Ned just said, that reminds me of another portion. Like if he quietly just sat there and took his vacation, right? And we also have this language in the handbook that says your sick bank time pays out when you retire 1 day for every 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's defined as a cash value.
Hopefully we have all honest people, but if you had some dishonest person that says, hey, I have this illness, and they sat out there for whatever the bank cap is, they can sit out there potentially for that many days, take full 1-for-1 on the sick bank time. And then just.
Well, I think if we give them a doctor's note to your employer, if you have more than our.
3 days.
3 days in a doctor's note. I can just tell you that doctor's notes are.
You have to have a doctor's
Yeah,
note,
they used to.
like cash benefit. If you're sick, you have to have a doctor's note.
No,
Rules
This is
is.
my point.
he just
No, the
has
rule
to
is
answer.
3 days, 3 consecutive days of sickness, then you need a doctor.
I would disagree with that. I would say that even your position as a director in a position, you would still fall under the handbook of the county. So
Madam President, I appreciate you indulging me this time.
I would,
Joe is regretting me inviting him over.
yeah, I'm done.
Discussion for sure.
To your point, I think anybody who takes 3 consecutive days.
Right,
So there's
yourself included, if you're gonna be,
reasons.
in part, well, elected official is exempt, they fall under the state laws. You can't succumb, but.
Well, I think that goes to your point in a way is, we're salary, right? We don't have personal days, we don't have vacation.
The elected official thing is text.
Salary, yeah.
It's different.
But, you're a department head, you're exempt, definitely no
Thinking out loud.
contact.
If Carol Cody wants to
These are
take
good
3 days, he's got to come back with a note to the president.
Or the note is that don't make sure that somebody's able to come back and that they're not exacerbating an injury or something like that. So it accomplishes that. But it also is kind of the gatekeeper of when you can break into the sick bank. That's the guy where you'll be,
Now, does anybody have any questions about the revisions?
Yeah, ordinance, okay.
Yeah, if you do, I'm happy to meet. I'm happy to have calls if you want to talk some of these things through. Because when it comes to some of these rules, attendance or conduct, there's multiple ways to view this.
Yeah.
My question does kind of relate to this though, it's like absence without pay. If you're a department head, there's no absence without pay. Right? And so do we clarify in here salary exempt positions within your resolution, your revision, and non-salary, non-exempt positions?
So it's really not written with that in mind. It's written for the bulk of, folks out here. But to that point, I think, most folks fall under the same
But if it's not clarified in the policy, how do we define it?
Can we, there's this, exempt and,
I know I'm a pain in the ass, Joe, but.
if there is, at least in the system, if there is, I don't know.
I know we have to provide it every year to state government, federal government, I think. But, yeah, I've read through your revisions. I didn't see, there was a few issues that I commented on, and you made those changes and.
I only think there's a lack of clarity in type of employment.
Yeah.
Exempt.
And we have all types here.
Correct.
It's, I think in the law.
It's gonna be in a, doesn't have to be defined.
You can still hold people to, even if they're a salaried person, say not a department head, they can still be held to account for absences.
But if there's a legal dispute, and Ray and Tom could probably speak to this, they're gonna look at this handbook. Is it clearly defined in this, what category of employee they are?
I would encourage them to look at it. I think we're on solid ground.
I encourage them to look at it too, because I don't know if we're on solid ground, but that's my opinion.
Call you back.
Anything else from anyone?
I think, Councilman Brown.
Oh, Councilman Brown. You have any questions, comments?
No,
Okay,
Sorry.
all right.
did you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you. Thanks, Joe, I appreciate it.
Okay, back to our agenda.
Thanks.
Council, I just have about 10 questions.
Are you making fun of me, Lino?
No,
Send them to go. Lake County Commissioner. It's that transfer.
Shut up now.
That's for the bond payments. Anyone have any questions on that? All right, next there's an ordinance, that merit system board. I'll let, Tom, you want to make a comment about that?
Yeah, sure. On further review, I read the rules and regulations of the corrections merit board. And as an aspect of those regulations, there's an appendix. And the appendix is our ordinance. So I'm concerned that under the collective bargaining agreement, that our ordinance is merged into regulations that are acknowledged by the collective bargaining agreement. So my recommendation would be that there be no action on that.
Anybody got any questions?
No.
All right.
It should be, if you guys are gonna address it, you should address it at the time of the meeting.
Okay, citizens, we have some nominations. We're still trying to clarify or contact Mr. Stevenson to see if he still wishes to remain. Oh, that's what I was
It's a
asking.
good question.
There's a Dan Stevenson who was a task, who works for the treasurer's office, I
I,
think, so.
I think you're
Terry's gonna
right.
look.
Okay, good, because yeah, I think. Yep, I don't think it's Steve.
Oh.
I mean, used to be years ago,
Right, but I don't think that's.
How do you move to Florida?
but he works in the treasurer's office, I believe.
Yeah, I get that.
And then Stevenson.
I think so, but I'm not sure if this is the same. But we could either call the town of Maryville, we could, if they meet,
Who's got, who's represents Maryville?
is he attending?
Ron or Chad, you guys, you got Maryville?
Yeah, I gotta go to this.
And Charlie's got.
Charlie has.
Yeah, I know you asked if this was,
Keyboard, but it's not, no, this wasn't.
that was redevelopment.
And we got nothing from this Stevenson, I don't know, does it support?
Some of these commissions don't even
Italy.
meet. So, yeah, but we should have a contact. They've had messages. Obviously, they.
If not, I can defer to like the city.
Yeah.
So they're like,
Making changes.
Like that.
And then, of course, there's some data board nominees. That are in here. And we still need 4 more. Chair's appointment, you do. Yeah. That's like. Okay, anybody got anything else? I placed a manual or whatever in front of you. It's not state statute, it's just something the Association of County Councils put together for us. The last one they did in, I think, 2016. So, yeah, it's just, I think they do it for like new council. Anything else? Anybody?
No.
All right. I don't think we need a motion to adjourn. We're just done.
All right.